playfully mocked him for being ugly at a preparty with our friends, but then he stood up and did this. Hello, Reddit. Throwaway account, yeah, because this is probably the most humiliating thing I've ever done, and I definitely do not want to associate it with my main. I'm still cringing as I write this, still trying to process just how horribly I messed up. And honestly, I don't know how I'm going to fix my relationship. I feel like I'm on the verge of losing something truly special, and I'm terrified. I know Reddit can be brutal with its responses, and part of me is not ready to face what might be said, but I have to get this off my chest. I need help. I need advice on how to fix the mess I've created. So here it is. Let me just unload and rant for a bit. My name is Camila. I'm 29 years old, and my husband, we're just going to call him Troy for the sake of anonymity, is also 29. We've been married for about 3 years now, but we've actually been together since high school. Yeah, we're one of those couples, high school sweethearts and all that. Troy has always been, and still is, an absolutely amazing partner. You know the kind of guy who seems too good to be true? That's him. He's the romantic kind, the guy who does all the sweet, thoughtful gestures without being asked. He's always been the one who's there for me, no matter what. Whether it's something trivial or something serious, Troy's the first person I turn to. And the thing is, he's always put me first. He's never been selfish, never complained about it. He'll drop anything if I need him, and he goes out of his way to make me happy. He takes care of me in ways I didn't even realize I needed until he came into my life. I know it sounds cliché, but I'm really not exaggerating when I say he's one of the best things that has ever happened to me. And yet the painful truth is, I never appreciated it enough. I've always known how lucky I am to have Troy. He's the kind of partner most people spend their whole lives searching for. Kind, caring, thoughtful, and basically everything you could ever want in a person. The kind who doesn't just love you in words, but shows it through actions, in the small, consistent ways that matter most. But despite knowing all of that, I guess I've taken him for granted. Maybe it's because we've been together for so long, since we were just kids in high school, that I've somehow grown to expect that he'll always be there, always being the one to pick up the pieces when things go wrong, always making sure I'm okay, always doing all those little things that made me fall in love with him in the first place. I got so used to it, so used to him putting me first, that it almost became automatic. It's like I assumed he'd keep doing those things no matter what, as if it was his job to make me happy. In a way, it's like I forgot that he's human, that he has feelings and limits, and that I could actually hurt him. I never stopped to think that maybe, just maybe, he'd get tired of always being the one to give, that he might feel taken for granted. I think I let myself believe that because he never really complained, because he always had this calm, understanding demeanor, that he was okay with it. I thought he'd always just brush things off, keep smiling through it no matter what. But now, after what I did, I realize that Troy is human, and my actions have consequences. I've been so caught up in being the center of his world, in being loved unconditionally, that I never truly considered how much power my words and actions have over him. I never thought about the toll it might take on him. And now that I've crossed a line I can't uncross, I'm left wondering if I've destroyed something that can't be fixed. It's almost like a cruel irony. The very person who made me feel so loved, so safe, is the one I ended up hurting the most. And the worst part is, I don't even know if I deserve him anymore. I don't know if I deserve his kindness, his forgiveness, or the second chances he's given me in the past. This time I went too far. This time it's not just something I can brush off with an apology. It's deeper than that, and I know it. I can't help but hate myself for being so careless. I had something good, something so rare, and I threw it away like it meant nothing. And now I'm terrified that I've lost it forever. So the issue is, Troy has never been conventionally attractive. And I don't mean that in a superficial way, at least I hope it doesn't come off that way, but it's the truth. He's got a beautiful soul, truly. He's the kind of person who would drop everything to help someone, always putting others before himself, and he's been an amazing husband. But I've always struggled with this unspoken, shallow shame about how he looks, and it's something I'm so ashamed to even admit. I know how horrible it sounds, and trust me, I feel guilty even saying this out loud. but it's true. There's this little voice in the back of my mind that, for as long as we've been together, has made me feel embarrassed, ashamed even, because Troy isn't the kind of guy that people look at twice when we walk into a room together. It's not like I go around consciously thinking about it, but it's there. This undercurrent of feeling like he's not good enough physically, even though he's more than enough in every other way that matters. He's not someone who stands out by society's standards. He's not tall, not traditionally handsome, and doesn't have those striking features you see in magazines or social media. And for the longest time, I didn't care about that, or at least I thought I didn't. But over time, I realized I've been holding on to this shallow part of me that does care, more than I should, and I've let it affect how I treat him. When we first started dating, I never thought about his looks that much. We were high school sweethearts, and back then, it didn't seem to matter. We were young, and it was all about being in love, having fun, and growing together. But as we got older and life started to move forward, those insecurities about how others see us, how they see him, started creeping in. I started noticing the glances from people, or at least I thought I did. Maybe it was all in my head, but it felt real, like when we'd be at a party, or even just out in public, and I could feel people looking at us, at him, and wondering how we ended up together. It's like there was this growing discomfort inside me, this sense that I wanted to be proud to show him off, but instead, I found myself avoiding situations where his appearance might be a topic of judgment. If we were at social events, I'd make jokes about his looks, little jabs that, in the moment, felt harmless or playful, but deep down, I know they were masking my insecurity. I'd laugh it off, brush it away, and he'd laugh with me, but every time I could feel something tearing just a little bit in our relationship. I think the worst part of it all is that I've let this insecurity turn into cruelty, something I didn't even fully realize until recently. I've mocked him, publicly, privately, about not being photogenic, about how his style doesn't fit the kind of image I want, even about how people might perceive us together. It's awful, and it's something that has driven a wedge between us, even if he hasn't fully expressed how much it's hurt him, but I know it has. There were moments, like when we'd take group pictures, where I'd make some stupid comment about how Troy always ruins the photos, or how he's just not camera-friendly, and it would get a few chuckles, but I'd see him wince, just for a second. Or when we were with friends, and the topic of physical attraction would come up, and I'd casually mention and joke that I didn't exactly marry Troy for his looks. It was meant as a joke, but I could feel the tension in him every time I said things like that. What makes this even worse is that I've always known, on some level, that he's insecure about his appearance. He's never said much about it, but I can see it in the way he shies away from mirrors, the way he doesn't like having his photo taken, or the way he never quite believes me when I tell him he looks good, which I rarely do, to be honest. I failed him in that way, and now that I'm finally admitting it, I realize just how deep the damage goes. I've taken advantage of how kind and forgiving he is. I've allowed my own insecurities about how others might perceive us to overshadow the truth of who he is, and who he is so much more important than anything as superficial as looks. He's the man who has stood by me through everything, who always puts me first, and who loves me without question, flaws and all. And here I am, tearing him down for something that's so shallow, it doesn't even matter in the grand scheme of things. I wish I could go back and undo all the times I've hurt him, all the moments I've let my vanity and my fear of judgment get in the way of truly appreciating him. I know now that I've been the one who's not good enough, not him, and I don't even know how to start fixing the damage I've caused. I am a stay-at-home wife now, but before that I used to work in an office. Back then I had this life outside of Troy, my career, my coworkers, my social media presence, all of which I kept separate from him. The truth is, I refused to let Troy be a part of any of it. I refused to bring him to any work events, anything that would involve mingling with my coworkers or bosses. It wasn't because he didn't want to come, or because he wasn't supportive of me. It was because I was ashamed. I didn't want my coworkers to know him, to see him, and worst of all, to know that he was my husband. I realize how horrible that sounds. Even now, writing this, I'm cringing at the truth, but that's what it was. I was ashamed of how he looked, and I didn't want that part of my life, the one where people knew me professionally, to mix with my life with Troy. I made sure to keep the two worlds as far apart as possible. It wasn't just the work events. I took it further. I wouldn't even let my coworkers follow me on my main social media accounts. I created this fake barrier, this online version of myself that didn't include Troy at all. It was easier to give them some flimsy excuse, tell them I was private or selective with who I let follow me. But the real reason was that I didn't want anyone who knew me professionally to come across the photos I'd been tagged in, the ones where Troy and I were together, and then put two and two together, that this man was my husband. The few photos I had posted were all old, before I started distancing myself from showing Troy online. And as for the newer ones, I outright refused to post them. Whenever he'd ask me why I didn't share photos of us, I would brush it off, tell him that he wasn't photogenic, or that his looks didn't fit the aesthetic I wanted to maintain online. It's awful to admit, but I told him that his appearance didn't match the image I wanted to project, and he believed me. What hurts the most now, looking back, is how much Troy accepted those little jabs, how he internalized what I was saying and tried not to make it a big deal. I was essentially telling him every time I made one of those excuses that he wasn't good enough to be seen with me. And somehow, he just swallowed that without arguing, without pushing back. He trusted me, and I used that trust to hide him away, all because I was insecure about how other people might judge us. And it wasn't just my coworkers. Even with my friends, the ones who weren't mutual friends with Troy, I was hesitant to introduce him. I had this particular group of friends, my more superficial ones, the ones who loved to comment on appearances and always seemed obsessed with how someone looked. And every time we had a gathering, I would make excuses for why Troy couldn't come. When I did have to bring him along, I was always on edge, worried about what they'd say or think. I never directly told Troy about this worry, but it hung over me every time we were in social situations with that group. I felt embarrassed, even though they never said anything openly. I'd catch myself subtly distancing myself from him, as if not standing too close or not holding his hand would somehow make me less connected to him in their eyes. I thought I was being discreet, but I was probably as transparent as glass. I'd avoid public displays of affection with him, especially when we were around people I knew would judge. I wouldn't hold his hand in public, wouldn't stand too close to him. I justified it to myself as being respectful of personal space or not wanting to be too coupley in front of others. But the truth was, I didn't want anyone to see us together and make the connection that I was with someone who didn't meet society's standards of attractiveness. I wasn't just ashamed of Troy, I was ashamed of myself. Ashamed of the person I'd become, someone who was so concerned about what others thought that I couldn't even stand by the man who loved me unconditionally. It's not just that I was insecure about how Troy looked. My insecurity ran deeper than that. I was terrified of being judged, of not fitting into the image I had built for myself. And I let that fear drive a wedge between us. The worst part is, Troy never once made me feel ashamed of myself. He never criticized me, never made me feel like I wasn't good enough. He was always proud of me, always supportive, always the first to compliment me or cheer me on. And what did I do in return? I hid him away, treated him like some kind of secret that I didn't want anyone to find out about. I let my own insecurities dictate how I treated him, and in doing so, I hurt the one person who was always there for me. Now, thinking about all the times I distanced myself from him, all the times I made excuses or refused to bring him along, it makes me sick. I see how wrong I was, how I let my own vanity and fear of judgment get in the way of what should have been a loving, supportive partnership. I took Troy's love and loyalty for granted, and instead of being proud to be with him, I let my own shame poison our relationship. I wish I could take it all back. I wish I could go back to every work event, every social gathering, every photo I refused to post, and just be proud of Troy, be proud of us. But I can't. All I can do now is admit how wrong I was and hope that, somehow, I can find a way to fix this. I guess Troy was finally done with me. All this time I thought I could say whatever I wanted, do whatever I wanted, and he'd just take it. He's always been calm, collected, never the type to lose his temper. I had known him since high school, and that's just who Troy was, the guy who would quietly smile, shake his head, and let me be. I was the emotional one in our relationship, the one who wore my heart on my sleeve, who'd get upset and snap when things didn't go my way. Troy was supposed to be my anchor, the one who never let anything faze him. I think, deep down, I believed that no matter what I said or did, he would always be there. I thought he loved me enough to overlook everything. I thought he would never snap, never get tired of me. But I was wrong. I pushed him too far, and it finally happened. He snapped. The one thing I never imagined possible, Troy standing up to me, calling me out, became my reality during a pre-party with our friends. We were all hanging out, drinking, laughing, the usual stuff. I was feeling good, riding the high of the night, and then I made the mistake of taking it too far. I started to playfully mock Troy's appearance, something I had done before, thinking it was just another joke, just another laugh to be had. I didn't think much of it at first. I made an offhand comment about him being ugly. It wasn't supposed to be taken seriously, at least that's what I told myself. The worst part was that our friends laughed. It only encouraged me. I doubled down, joking that I obviously didn't marry him for his looks, and the laughter continued. But as the words left my mouth, something shifted. It was like I crossed an invisible line that I hadn't even realized was there. The laughter from our friends started to fade. It became this awkward, uncomfortable silence that filled the room. I could see them slowly realizing how messed up it was, but I didn't stop. I thought I could brush it off, move on to another joke, steer the conversation elsewhere. But then I saw Trey's face. He wasn't laughing. He wasn't even smiling. He just sat there, staring at me. His eyes were hard in a way I'd never seen before. Then before I could say anything else, Trey stood up. I'll never forget the sound of his chair scraping against the floor as he pushed it back. Everyone turned to look at him, and things got even more awkward. Troy told me to shut up. I had never heard him say that to me before. Not like that. His voice was calm, but it was filled with so much hurt and anger. He said he was done. Done with me being a horrible person. Done with me mocking him. He said that if I didn't like how he looked, then I shouldn't be with him. That hit me like a punch to the gut. I had always assumed that no matter how much I teased him, no matter how cruel I got, Trey would never leave. But hearing him say that in front of everyone made it feel real. For the first time, I realized that maybe he could walk away. Maybe I had pushed him to the point where he would actually leave me. He said he was tired of always being the butt of my jokes, tired of hearing me mock him over and over. He said that he knew he wasn't the best-looking guy in the room, and he was okay with that. He said he had made peace with it a long time ago, but then he said something that shattered me. He said he was heartbroken that the person who was supposed to love him, the person who promised to support him, had been the one making him feel like a joke. Our friends didn't know where to look. Some stared down at their drinks, others shifted uncomfortably in their seats. No one said a word. The silence was deafening, and in that silence I realized just how badly I had messed up. I wanted to say something, anything, but I was frozen. My mind was racing, trying to come up with the right words, but nothing came. I just sat there staring at him, feeling the weight of what I had done. I had hurt Troy deeply, and for the first time, I felt the full impact of my cruelty. Troy didn't wait for me to respond. He just left. He walked out of the room, and I was too stunned to follow him. I had to catch a ride home with a friend, and the whole time I felt like I was in a daze. When I got home, Troy wasn't there. I waited for him, thinking he'd come back, that I'd have a chance to apologize, to explain that it was just a joke, that I didn't mean it. But he never came back that night. I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, replaying the scene over and over in my head. I thought about all the times I had mocked him, all the little digs and jabs I had made at his appearance. I had thought I was being funny, that it was harmless, but it wasn't. I was so focused on being the funny girlfriend, the one who made everyone laugh, that I never stopped to think about how my words were affecting him. I never considered how much they were hurting him. The next morning, Troy came home to get ready for work. I tried to talk to him, to apologize, but he ignored me. He didn't even look at me. I told him I was sorry, that I hadn't meant to hurt him, but the words felt really hollow, even to me. How do you apologize for something like that? How do you take back years of hurtful comments and cruel jokes? Saying sorry didn't feel like enough. It didn't even come close. Troy didn't respond. He just got ready for work and left without a word. And now I'm left here, wondering how I can ever make this right. I've hurt him in ways I never imagined, and I don't know if he'll ever forgive me. I know things will never be the same between us. I know I've damaged our relationship in a way that might be impossible to fix. But I want to try. I want him to talk to me, to tell me how he feels. I want to apologize, not just with words, but with actions. I want to make it up to him, even though I don't know how. I'm scared that I've lost him for good, scared that no matter what I do, he'll never be able to look at me the same way again. I don't know how to make him realize how sorry I am, how much I regret everything I've said and done, but I know one thing. I love him, and I don't want to lose him. I just don't know if love is enough to fix this. Please, Reddit, what do I do? Update. Hello, Reddit. Damn, I had been expecting to get roasted in the worst possible way. I knew it was coming. I've been around here long enough, abused Reddit for a long time, and I know how brutal it can be. But still, even though I expected it, it was hurtful. Reading all the responses really hit me hard. I get it, though. I know I was wrong. No excuses, no deflection, no justifications. I'm not here to try and make myself seem like a victim or paint a picture where I'm less responsible. I take full responsibility for everything. This whole mess? It's on me. It's my fault, all of it. I should have stopped long ago, but I didn't. I kept pushing, kept mocking, and now I've finally gone too far. I knew it in the moment, and I definitely know it now after reading all the comments. I can't pretend like I didn't see this coming, but hearing it from so many people really made it sink in deeper than I thought it would. And I've seen a lot of comments suggesting that I'm trying to deflect or not take responsibility for what I've done, but that's not the case. I know I'm the one to blame here. I was awful to Troy, and I should have known better. I've been telling myself that for days now, so trust me when I say I get it. Please stop saying I'm not owning up to it. I am, and I have been. I can't turn back time or undo the things I said, but I can try to make it right. A lot of you suggested that I talk to Troy, and that's exactly what I plan to do. Actually, I've been wanting to have this conversation with him ever since that night, but I just didn't know how. I'm going to wait for him to get back from work so we can finally sit down and talk. It's time. It's time to be held accountable for everything. I need to apologize properly, face to face, without any defensiveness or excuses. I owe him that much and more. A couple of friends have reached out to me since that night. I guess they're concerned, wanting to check in, see if Troy and I are okay. I haven't replied to them yet because honestly, I don't even know what to say. What do you say in a situation like this? Sorry I humiliated my husband in front of you guys, but we're working on it. I just don't have the words right now, so I've been ignoring their messages until I figure out what's next. The thing is, before I can face them, I need to face Troy. That's my priority right now. We're going to have a full, honest conversation, like adults, like the married couple we're supposed to be. There's no more running away from it, no more brushing things under the rug or pretending like everything's fine. It's time for me to take responsibility. Fully, not just in words, but in actions. I don't know what's going to happen, and I'm scared. I won't lie, I'm terrified of what he might say, or worse, what he might not say. But I'm ready for whatever comes. I'm ready to apologize, ready to own my mistakes, and ready to face the consequences. I know I can't expect Troy to just forgive me and move on like nothing happened. It's not that simple. But at the very least, I owe him an explanation, a real apology, and the space to tell me exactly how much I've hurt him. I'll update after we talk. Maybe we'll figure something out, or maybe we won't, but at least I'll know that I tried to make things right. This time I won't run from it. Update. Hey Reddit, I said I would update after I had talked to Troy, so here it is. We finally had that conversation, and it didn't go how I hoped it would. He came back from work really late, which I think was deliberate, like he was avoiding coming home. But I waited up for him, and we had a very long talk. It was probably one of the hardest conversations I've ever had in my life. I've never seen Troy like that, not smiling at me, not making jokes to lighten the mood. He just looked done. And that feeling, seeing him like that, it made me feel so horrible. I felt like I was going to throw up the entire time. Short version, he doesn't want anything to do with me anymore. He wants a divorce. The long version. Troy said he's just done. He said he's been putting up with my jokes for a long time because he loved me, and he thought they didn't really mean anything. He said he used to laugh them off because he believed I didn't mean to hurt him. But that day at the pre-party, that was the final straw for him. He said it wasn't funny anymore. It stopped being funny a long time ago, and he realized he didn't want to spend his life with someone who made him feel like a joke. Hearing him say that felt like a punch to the gut. I knew I had messed up, but I didn't realize just how deeply I had hurt him until that moment. Troy opened up about how he's always been insecure about his looks. He told me how he was bullied as a kid for not being conventionally attractive, and how it took him years to build up his confidence. He said he thought I saw past all of that I loved him for who he was, not for how he looked. But after everything, now he's not so sure. He doesn't know if I ever really loved him for him. That hit me like a ton of bricks. I had never thought about how my jokes, my remarks, were just reinforcing all the insecurities he spent years trying to overcome. I thought I was being funny, being playful, but in reality, I was just tearing him down, little by little. And now, I've torn him down to the point where he doesn't want to be with me anymore. We talked for a long time, but the conclusion was the same. Troy doesn't want to be in this relationship anymore. He's tired of feeling like he's not enough, tired of being hurt by the person who's supposed to love him the most, and hearing him say that, I don't even know how to describe it. It's like I finally realized the full weight of what I've done. I hadn't been loving him the way he deserved. I hadn't been the partner he thought I was. I had been so focused on being liked, on being funny and getting laughs, that I never thought about what that was doing to him. So yeah, I want to fight for us. I want him to give us a second chance. But to be completely honest, I'm ashamed. How do you beg someone who you've spent years mocking to forgive you? How do I tell Troy that I'm sorry, that I want to make it right when I've been the source of so much of his pain? I don't even know where to start. I'm moving out soon. That's something we agreed on. I'll be moving back in with my parents for now. I've already called them and explained the situation, and they're sending my brother over to help me pack up. My parents are ashamed of me too. They called Troy to apologize on my behalf, which honestly made everything feel worse. They told me they've always noticed my snide remarks, that they knew I was treating him badly, and I lost it on them. I screamed at them, asking why they didn't say anything. Why didn't they sit me down and tell me to stop if they noticed how awful I was being? If someone, anyone, had talked to me, maybe I would have stopped before it got this bad. But they didn't. And now I'm going to lose Troy. I don't want to lose him. I love him, and I'm realizing now just how much I've taken him for granted. I want to fight for us. I want to make things right. But I don't know how. How do I make him see that I'm truly sorry? How do I make him believe that I can change, that things can be different? How do I make him look past all the hurt I've caused and give me another chance? I don't know what to do. I've messed up so badly, and now I'm afraid it's too late to fix it. Update. Hey Reddit, it's me again. I'm so sorry I haven't updated in a while. Honestly, I've been really busy wallowing in my misery and drowning in self-guilt. I don't even know what to say at this point or how to feel. I'm still trying to salvage things, still fighting for us, but it feels like I'm the only one putting in any effort. I suggested therapy. I suggested couples counseling. I begged him to consider anything that could help us work things out, but he flat out refused. So, I eventually moved out to my parents' place. I hate it here, I really do. It feels suffocating. Every time I walk into the house, I'm reminded of how much I messed up, and it's all my fault. And my parents don't make it any easier. They keep saying it over and over like I'm a broken record. You messed up, they tell me. It's all your fault. You made your bed, now lie in it. Thanks for the reminder, Mom. Just what I needed. I hate it. I hate myself. I hate everything. It's like I'm stuck in this loop of regret and sadness. I keep replaying that night in my head, wishing I could go back and change my words, my actions. I can't escape the feeling of dread that's settled in my chest. I can't escape the fact that I've lost the one person who meant the world to me. Every single day feels heavier than the last, and I just don't know how to lift this weight off my shoulders. And just when I thought things couldn't get worse, I was served divorce papers. Divorce papers. My heart sank when I saw them. I didn't even know how to react. Part of me felt like I deserved it, like this was the ultimate punishment for the way I treated him. But another part of me was just crushed, devastated that it had come to this. I've been crying all week, and nobody seems to care enough to console me. My parents just keep reiterating how I brought this upon myself, how I should have treated Troy better. I get it. I know I fucked up. I know I made mistakes, but I'm tired of hearing it. I'm exhausted from feeling this way. I want to fight for him. I want to show him that I can change, that I can be the partner he deserves, but it feels hopeless now. Every time I try to talk about it, I just get shut down. I don't know how to make things right when he's made up his mind. I just feel so defeated. How do I move forward from this? How do I pick up the pieces of my life when I feel like I've shattered everything? I don't know what to do anymore. I'm just so tired. Update. Hey Reddit, it's me again. I'm so sorry I haven't updated in a while. I've been so miserable. It's gotten so bad that my parents actually signed me up for therapy because they're really worried about me. I guess I should say thanks, Mom. The first bit of concern you've shown me in the midst of all this is signing me up for therapy. But hey, at least it's something, right? It just feels like a slap in the face when you think about how you've blamed me for everything that's gone wrong in my life. So, the divorce has been finalized. I fainted in the courtroom. Yes, I cringe when I think about it now. It was embarrassing, to say the least. Troy panicked when it happened, and I guess, thankfully, there's still that little part of him that cares, because he genuinely looked worried. When I woke up a few seconds later, it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. I think it was just shock. But after that, the divorce was finalized. It didn't take very long, unfortunately. We had no debts, no marital assets to fight over. And of course, I didn't qualify for spousal support since we hadn't been married for long. So yeah, that's it. The house was his, and it feels like my life is over. I always thought Troy was the person I wanted to spend the rest of my life with, and now here I am, starting from scratch. And now I'm going to have to go back to the workforce. How the hell am I supposed to go back to a 9-to-5 job? I can't even imagine it. It's like I'm walking into an unknown world, and I feel so unprepared. I hate my life. I hate myself. I hate everything about how things turned out. I hate Troy for not giving me a second chance. I hate my friends for taking his side in all of this. I feel so isolated, like I've lost my support system. Troy isn't even as bad-looking as I made him sound. I was just so obsessed with good looks and being with someone conventionally attractive that I overlooked everything else that made him an amazing person. I hate myself for that. Yes, I regret it. I feel like a complete waste of space, and I keep spiraling deeper into this pit of self-loathing. My parents are trying to help me, telling me I need to get a job, but how am I supposed to get a job when I can't even take care of myself? I can barely get out of bed some days. I feel like I'm drowning in this misery, and I don't know how to swim back to the surface. How the hell am I supposed to manage a job when I can't even manage my own life? It feels hopeless, like I'm just going through the motions of existing without actually living, whatever. I don't even know what to say anymore. I'm just lost.